I'm sure most of you know this, but there's a big difference between the humble rum and coke and the Cuba Libre. But for those of you that don't, the simple addition of a couple of wedges of lime in your rum and coke makes the drink taste completely different. And that's what a Cuba Libre is: rum, coke, lime. Hey rum fans, my name's Steve the Barman and I'm here to help you on your rum journey by mainly focusing on rums under £50. Now the idea of this video came to me from one of my awesome members, Top Cheese, and he wrote that in a recent comment. He wanted to know my views on a rum and coke versus a Cuba Libre, and you know what? I couldn't really answer him properly. So I thought the best way to actually answer him was to do a video and find out for myself. Now, to point out one obvious thing, the Cuba Libre does obviously refer to Cuban rum. If you don't use Cuban rum, it ain't a Cuba Libre. So obviously in this video, I'm gonna have to do that comparison. But I know some of you like to play naughty and bend the rules. So I thought I'd test the Cuba Libre out over a variety, a cross section of different rums. Does lime in a rum and coke make it taste better or worse? So first up, let's attack the proper a Cuba Libre, if you like. I am using the rums that both brands would market as their rum and coke. The white rums, so the Havana 3-year-old and the Carta Blanca, more kind of daiquiri mojito kind of rums. I also would have included Santiago de Cuba in here, but I haven't restocked that. I've used it, so I'm out. The lowest age one I've got there is the 8-year-old, which is a bit of an unfair advantage because these are kind of like loosely based on 2, 3-year-old, that sort of stuff. So first off, full disclosure as well, the Pepsi Max is only sitting there because I fancied a rum and coke, and I only had 2 cans of normal coke in the fridge, so that was chilled. So that's what's that said. I'll put that away just so you don't. I'm going to do this test with that. So Havana Especial and Coke, nice. We know it's not my favourite, my all-star sort of rum and coke, but it's decent, it's drinkable, cheap, it's really, really nice. Right, so should have used bigger glasses for this. Let's get the lime all squeezed in. There we go. Get that lime in there. I might stir that round just to give it a little bit of jiggery pokery. Does the wedge of lime in a Havana Especial make it taste any better? For me, no. I prefer that without the lime. So what about the Ron Cuba Carta Dorada? Rum and coke's really tasty. Full disclosure. I keep saying that word quite a lot, full disclosure. That tastes better than Havana Especial. That is a banging rum and coke. And now with the wedge of lime squeezed in, here we go, just squeeze that in, give it a little stir. I made these quite punchy actually. That was quite strong on rum and coke. So with lime. Interesting, that's quite nice. That's bizarre. I'm not a fan of that at all. All right, let's be honest. I prefer that without the lime. I do. But with the lime, as a Cuba Libre, that's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't go fantastic, but that's all right. I prefer it without the lime. So next up, I wanted to stick with the Spanish style of rums, if we like. I've gone for the Abuelo 7-year-old Panama, and I've gone for the Flor de Carne 12. Why did I go for the Flor de Carne 12 over the Flor de Carne 7? Because do you know what? That is cheap enough to buy as a rum and coke. It is dirt cheap in the UK and it's a great, great rum. So let's go for the Abuelo first. Abuelo 7-year-old rum and coke. Decent. Slightly heavier than the Cuban rums. Slightly more, what's the word? Robust, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I don't know, caramelly, slightly more caramelly. And the Flor de Carne, let's try that without the lime first. That's a great rum and coke. That's a really good rum and coke. It really is. That's my favourite rum and coke so far. You know, that's really, really good. Right, let's get involved in the old wedge of lime. Squeeze that in there. And squeeze that one in there. So we have gone not Cuba Libre, but we know rum, coke, and lime. Cuba Libre with different rums. How's that? So we go for the Abuelo. Do I prefer the Abuelo with lime or without? That's actually quite nice. Wow, that's really different to the Cuban rums. That's really nice. Because that's heavier caramel and heavier molasses, that works a treat. That is really refreshing. I like that. Right, Flor de Carne 12. It is close, but it's a definitive answer there. I prefer the Flor de Carne with the 12-year-old without lime. That is a banging rum and coke. This has surprised me. I think I actually prefer that Abuelo with lime. So the next two contenders, I've moved on to English style of rums. We've got Jamaica versus Barbados, Appleton 8 versus Dawley's 5-year-old. I could have done the, I could have done the Bacardi, even the 4, whatever it is, the Bacardi Quattro. I could have done the Bacardi. I'm just curious now. I'm really, really curious. So, but the Barbados, the Dawley's 5-year-old without lime. Not my favourite rum and coke, but decent. I quite like that. It's all right. I've got better rums for rum and coke for me personally. But the Appleton 8-year-old, that is a good rum and coke. Right, limes, lime. In a glass that size, you would probably put a good couple of wedges in there, to be fair. And this, so I wedge my limes. So one lime gives me 6 wedges, if you like. So I've got 1/6 of a lime going into each glass here. Here we go. So far out of the 4, it's been the Abuelo's 7-year-old that I've kind of preferred with, as I'm just going to call it a Cuba Libre. We know it's not Cuban rum, but it's the Cuba Libre. The Abuelo's been the only one so far that I've enjoyed. Right, Dawley's. I've got a hunch how this is going to play out, and I'm going to keep you. What's the way on the edge of your seats. I like both of those with lime. My hunch, and I've not done this. I have no idea, and it was the Abuelo where this kicked in. I think for me and my palate, I think I don't want to say heavier, but the more aged, the more molasses, the more caramels, the more woody notes, the more toffee notes that come out in the rum. I think for me, that's where I'm going to prefer the lime. I'm going up in the darkness stakes, in the age stakes. I've got a couple of others. I'm going to do some spiced rums, but that's interesting. The lighter, really light column stills, not a huge fan of. But when we add more character to the rum, I kind of like that with a wedge of lime. Right, the next two, kind of an abstract choice, last minute choice. This wasn't on my notes in front of me. This was the Worthy 109. I wanted to do dark rums, but I wasn't going to do too many. And I looked at this and I was like, no. But then I thought, you know what? In the US and Canada, you lot, this is cheap as chips. And I think in Europe as well, is cheap as chips. For us, it's quite expensive. I wouldn't probably ever buy that as a rum and coke rum compared to the Flor de Carnia, which is like a good £10, £12 cheaper. I think. But I know so many people that buy that as a rum and coke. So this is going to be interesting. The dark is my theory. Is my theory going to come true? So, Worthy Part 109, Jamaican, 54.5% proof, ABV. That's the word, right. Absolutely delicious rum and coke. My favourite rum and coke so far. I do like my dark rums and cokes. That is where my palate sits. But there is way more caramel, more burnt toffee, more, I wouldn't say more wood, but definitely caramel vibes going on in the rum with that. I like that. I do like that. Right. El Dorado, 12-year-old. Maybe my first ever time I've had this rum and coke. Maybe. I can't remember. Let's try. That's a good rum and coke. Oh, if that was only cheaper, that's a good rum and coke. Actually, I do prefer that. But that's really, really tasty. Right, the wedge of lime going in now. Squeeze them both in, give it a little stir. This is really interesting. So I've gone up through the ranks. I've done sort of lighter, like the Cuban style. I haven't done white rums actually, but I don't need to with that Havana Especial and the Carta Dorada from there. Right up to the dark rums. I'm going to do spiced rums in a second. But the Worthy 109. Hello. Wow. I love this experiment. This is the best experiment I've done. Right, the El Dorado 12-year-old. This has just blown my little tiny mind. In my head, I had it down that if I didn't like the Cuba Libre, the proper authentic Cuban rum with lime, there was no way in the world I was going to like these. Absolutely no way. my hunch is coming true. The darker, for my own palate, the darker, the more caramel, the more molasses, the more sort of toffee vibes that come out in the rum, the more I like the addition of that lime wedge. Now, I could go flipping well all day long testing all these rums behind the bar, but I want your feedback. I'm going to do the spiced rums now, and I'm going to have a 4-way shoot off in the spiced rums, but I want your feedback. I want to know what rums. I want you to try your favourite rums with Coke and then add a wedge of lime. Which do you prefer? Is the Cuba Libre overrated? That's what I want to know, because for my palate so far, and before I, well, that's for this video, my palate, the darker, the more caramel, more molasses in that rum, the more I like it with lime. The lighter rums, no, just give me a rum and coke. The darker rums, give me rum, coke and lime. Right, the spiced, I'm going to start this end because that's the strong one down there. So the Cane Rock plantation, we call it plantation, it's Maison Ferrand, not under the plantation brand, but it's a lovely hints of coconut in there, other spices and all that. No ice cubes, that's why it tastes a bit funny. Got to have rum, coke and ice. Got to have ice in your Cuba Libres, haven't you? In your rum and cokes. Right, let's try that again. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Love that. There's a video, actually, at the time of dropping this time next week, there's a video dropping about my relationship with spiced rum, so stay tuned for that. Right, let's squeeze in a wedge of lime. Do I prefer spiced rums with a wedge of lime? No, on that one. I prefer that as a rum and coke. I lose the coconut. It's nice, but I lose the coconut vibes in that. It's nice, but no cigar. Right, got to add ice as I go along to these. There we go. So, Old Chairman's Reserve. What's a favourite rum and coke? Really is. Favourite spiced rum. Right. Delicious. Cinnamon, nutmeg, orange, clove. Delicious spiced rum. Delicious. I would... Oh, that's nice. That is nice. The Coke really does play well with that spiced rum. That's a really, really nice one. To be fair, the Cane Rock's really, really nice as well. I'm not convinced how this is going to go, actually. I picked the Cane Rock. I knew that in my head. I'm on the fence with this one. This could blow my little mind because I think the citrus might play well with those spices. Let's find out. No. No, 100% not. Wow. No. The nutmeg still hits me. No. Spiced rum, Coke. Plus, Chairman's Reserve, Coke. Don't worry about the lime. Real, no. Oh, no. That's my least favourite one of the day so far. I'm not loving that. Right, Black Tears. I was going to call this Black Rock then. Black Tears. Cuban rum, chocolate or cacao, sorry, coffee, and a dolce. A dolce? Is it a dolce? A pepper anyway. Cuban pepper. Right. Dry, unsweetened. These are all proper, what I would call proper spiced rums, these. Delicious. Chocolate notes, coffee notes. Almost a very unsweetened Tia Maria and Coke or Kahlua and Coke. That's delicious. Right. I don't know. I generally can't pick it. I generally can't pick it. Right. Stir that in. Black Tears. This would be a Cuba Libre, a spiced Cuba Libre, I just thought. That's not bad. I prefer it as a rum and coke, but that's not bad. That's actually really, really not bad. I do prefer it as without the lime. I do. I'll be honest. But that's not bad. Now, this one. I have got a caveat coming with this one. Because I think I know exactly how this plays. But let's find out. Stronger, delicious, spices, great rum and coke. Along this similar sort of flavour profiles as the Chairman's Reserve. Just slightly more punchier in your face. Now, I'm intrigued by this because I don't think I've ever done this with lime. But there's a caveat coming. You know I like my caveats. There's a caveat coming. That is good. That is actually the best one of the lot with a lime wedge. And I had a feeling it may be, because the way to make that a banging rum and coke is a wedge of orange. Stick a wedge of orange in that as a rum and coke. And to be fair, I haven't actually done it with those, but you stick a wedge of orange in that, rum and coke, and oh my God, that is good. And because I knew that was a wedge of orange, I've never done it with lime. But the lime, I'm actually interested in doing it with lemon now as well. That is actually pretty tasty. It may be the extra alcohol, because the extra, it has got more sort of, I don't want to keep generalising, but the caramel molasses and all that sort of stuff, it has got more of that going on compared to that. Similar spices, but it has got more of that. And I think that's why it plays better with the citrus. That for me is nice, but just, I prefer it as a rum and coke. So yeah, to sum up, I flipping want you guys, I want you guys to do this experiment. I want you to come out with some rums, but I want you to find the rum for you that is better with lime. Rum and coke and lime. I want you to find the rum. I'm so interested. This has blown my tiny little mind just doing this. Absolutely blown my mind.